Almost. Major. Holy fucking shit, this is major!
Welcome to this week's edition of Almost Major, where we talk about the many major studios and the films they released. Today we are talking about The Minus Man from 1999, and my name is Kevin Tudor. I'm here with Bryden Doyle.
Hello.
And Charlie Nash.
Hello.
Like I said, we are talking about The Minus Man from 1999. This went to Sundance in January 1999 with a limited release in the US September 10th, 1999. It opened in 5 theaters and spread out to 45 theaters. The budget, once again, I could not find it. Opening weekend was $40,000, domestic gross of $370,000. Top 5 films this weekend, yes, Stigmata, The Sixth Sense. Stigmata is number 1.
Over The Sixth Sense.
I so want to watch that movie. Can't wait.
Oh, it's a doozy.
It sucks, and I want to own it so bad. Just watch the intro to Stigmata alone, set to fucking Chumbawamba's Mary Mary. Okay, just do that.
And there's a scene where Patricia Arquette gets possessed by Satan to "All Is Full of Love" by Bjork.
Yeah.
Hair salon.
Yeah. Yeah. Kind of cool, okay? I need to rewatch this movie. Be like everybody on Twitter that's just like, this movie everybody thinks sucks, it's amazing. It's like, no, it still sucks. It's just kind of interesting to watch.
It has no ending. It just kind of shrugs. Like, it's just like
she's cured, I guess.
Wow, yeah. Spoilers for this 23-year-old movie.
Yeah.
That is so beloved
This
by
was
everyone.
number 1 this weekend, okay? Everybody saw it, okay? Even though I'm sure it made like $10 million opening weekend.
Il messaggero no è importante.
Number 2, Sixth Sense. Number 3, Stir of Echoes. Number 4, Runaway Bride. And number 5, Bowfinger. Blair Witch is still going strong at number 10 in its 9th week this weekend, so hell yeah. Number 1 song in the US this week is Balemos by Enrique Iglesias. And number 1 song in Canada is If You Had My Love by Jennifer Lopez.
Anyone ever owned Now 3 back in the day? Because that's how I had Balemos.
And we are going back to the Now. Last time it was Now 2, I believe, right?
Yeah, I'm skipping forward. I look, I wasn't sure we could reach this point in our friendship today, but I'm gonna make that step forward.
Okay, I wanna know what off the top of your head, how many songs do you remember from Now 3?
Kevin, you want to know which song I specifically remember?
Uh-huh.
Nookie.
It's not on here. You're a liar.
No, I am not lying. Nookie is on Now 3. I would never lie to you about why. What reason?
It's not
would
on
I have...
here, man. Let me look up Now 4.
Bullshit. I'd never owned Now 4. Kevin, I'm on the Wikipedia page and I'm sending it to you now.
What the fuck, Discogs?
It's track number 9.
I swear to God, on Discogs it does not have it.
Yeah, well, Discogs is a fucking liar.
I also just sent you the
link.
Wait.
Okay, the Now 3 I was looking up was from 1998 and it has a completely different cover. This is just called Now! ! And then we're talking about Now That's What I Call Music 3.
Yeah.
I did not know there was 2 different ones.
What yes. You grew up with the fucking like ripoff shit?
This is a much different track list from Now 3, which is wild. No tub thumping on this, which, but we got, okay. Well, fuck, you already looked at the track list, but...
Yeah, well, I had to because you called me to task. I wasn't just gonna...
I did not know that there was a Now, and Now That's What I Call Music Volume 3. So many of these songs I do not know of at all. Like Get Gone by Ideal, Shantae Moore, Shantae's Got a Man, Hey Leonardo.
You've never heard What's My Age Again by Blink-182?
Haven't heard it. I love how it says Balemos from Wild Wild West on here.
That was initially how, because I didn't know, and I was just like, I had to know as a 9-year-old where that song came from.
Yeah, it's wild. Like, half of this, it's definitely front loaded because everything up to Special by Garbage, it's just like, oh, okay, I've heard of every single one of these songs. Okay, and then everything else besides Out of My Head by Fastball, the last song, I've never heard of.
I'm gonna be very embarrassing here. I had Now 2, which I think I'm Paranoid by Garbage, and then Special by Garbage on Now 3, and that resulted in me getting version 2.0. Just like What's My Age Again got me to get my first parental advisory CD, which was Enema of the State by Blink-182.
Very funny, very funny. Back in the day, we did the Columbia House, where you can get like 5 quote-unquote CDs for like 50 cents, and I ordered that one, but it didn't have the explicit tag on it, on like the fucking stamps that you put on and whatnot. When I got it in the mail, my dad was just like, no, you don't get that. That goes to your brothers. And I was like, I'm only going to listen to What's My Age Again. There's no cursing on that. Can I have the album? You know, very fun.
I literally blew one of my friends' minds because after I got Enema of the State, the explicit version, the non-edited version, my parents got me Take Off Your Pants and Jacket, the edited version. And I was like, yeah, I never even understood what that title of that album meant until like I was an adult. And they were like, what do you mean? I was like, well, obviously it's like Get Naked, but, you know, Take Off Your Pants and Jacket. And it blew my friend's mind. Or she was like, I never realized that. I'm just like, yeah, God damn it. Also, I one of my favorite interactions with work was I was reminiscing with a friend about like how much nostalgia we have for Blink-182 and how we were like, yeah, like so much nostalgia for them and their lyrics are terrible. And someone listening to our
30-year-old man being like, oh, I was at a movie theater and you were with some guy.
Adam's song is pretty good though. That's actually pretty effective.
I still look, their lyrics are terrible. I have so much nostalgia for them, but then one of our other coworkers who wasn't even like involved in our conversation just walked by and was like, Blink-182 is essentially about a bunch of 30-year-olds singing about skipping class and making prank phone calls. And we all just lost it. And then she was like, what it is? And we're like, yeah, that's why it's funny.
That's so good. I mean, that's pretty much pop punk in a nutshell. Anything on Tony Hawk's Pro Skater soundtrack, it lines up with that. The Minus Man follows an aimless serial killer named Van, played by Owen Wilson, who takes a bizarre turn in life and becomes a serial killer, tracking down the miserable, the self-destructive, and those who otherwise seem willing to die. Okay, that's a weird way to put it.
It seems like he's a serial killer at the start of the movie, because like he's shown like washing off his car, and I don't know like how bad the murder, like if it was like a really horrible murder he committed beforehand, but it seems like I'm getting the impression he's already done this before, especially he's already pretty lined up.
Maybe he was a part of the rent-a-car derby in Jackass the movie, and he was just like, I hit a deer.
You're gonna pay for that? No, I'm not. I got the insurance. It doesn't cover that. Yeah. Oh my goodness. Yeah, because I would assume so, because that truck also has the thing where he has the poison underneath the truck. So we didn't see him install that, so I assume at the start he already has that. So.
He seems so prepared. Yeah.
Oh
and
yeah.
What he wasn't prepared for was Sideshow Bob was also underneath his car the entire time.
Oh my god.
We're off to a raucous start. Jesus.
Hell yeah. His first victim is wretched junkie Casper, played by Sheryl Crow. What is Google?
No judgment there.
His first victim deserved it, and then after that, after disposing of her body.
Would you say that he was her favorite mistake?
Oh God, get this guy. This is
brother, this guy stinks!
After disposing of her body, Van rents a room from a turbulent couple, Jane and Doug Derwin, played by Brian Cox and Mercedes Rowe. From there, Van plots his murders, gets work at the post office, and falls deeper and deeper into a psychotic haze. Sure. Directed by Hampton Fancher. Fanta. Okay. Wrote the adapted screenplay based on the novel by Lou McCreary. This is his only directed film. He's primarily known for his 60s and 70s television acting and writing. He fucking co-wrote Blade Runner and Blade Runner 2049 and wrote The Mighty Quinn in 1989.
That's a good movie. Yeah. I mean,
I need to
Blade
watch
Runner.
that, yeah. But apparently, like, he wrote the original Blade Runner script, and then Ridley Scott was just like, no, like, I like some ideas, and they brought somebody in, and you're like, no, I can fix it up, and it took him so long that they kept calling him, instead of Happen Faster, they were nicknaming him Happen Faster. They're like, you lazy fucking...
That's very funny.
Yeah. Starring Owen Wilson as Van. If you listened to our previous episode, I already got into Owen Wilson, so we're done with that. Janine Garofalo as Farron. Weird name. Pryor, nominated for 2 Emmys in 1996 and 1997. Had a short stint on SNL for 1 season from 94 to 95. Was on the Ben Stiller Show. Her iconic role in The Cable Guy as the medieval times waitress.
Oh, that's my favorite scene of The Cable Guy. It's so good.
She was like, hey, I'm your helpless wench Brenda.
Yeah, you're serving wench Melinda. There were no utensils at medieval times, hence there are no utensils at medieval times. Would you like a refill on that Pepsi?
There were no utensils, but there was Pepsi?
Dude, had a lot of tables.
After this, she was in Dogma, 200 Cigarettes, and Mystery Men in 1999. 14 episodes uncredited on Felicity as the voice of Sally Reardon.
Yep. She's like the teacher, I think, that Felicity has, and she keeps like... Watch all 4 seasons of Felicity, so I know this. Felicity, like, when she gets to college, she's really nervous, so she talks into a tape recorder and sends the tapes to Sally, who's played by Janine Garofalo, and then at the end of every episode, at least in the first season, Garofalo's Sally keeps sending tapes back, giving advice about, like, here, dear Felicity, here's how to solve your problem, and here's, like, some experiences that I've had, or whatever, and that's sort of how it keeps going.
That's wild.
Yeah, Felicity, wild show.
I can't wait to watch it. I didn't know there was only 4 seasons. That makes me happy. And also Wet Hot American Summer in 2001. Also a fantastic comedian, and I'd recommend her stand-up, If You Will, from 2010. Did y'all know how she was cast and almost cast in Fight Club?
No.
Yeah, she was cast. She was cast in it. Fincher was just like, here's the script. If you want it, you're in. She was like, okay. And then Edward Norton was like, no, I'm dating Courtney Love. I would rather her play Marla. And then, so they kicked her out, and then Brad Pitt was like, I'm not signing on to it if Courtney Love plays Marla, and then they got, who they got.
And Courtney Love,
Carter.
And Courtney Love, who's in 200 Cigarettes with Janine Garofalo. Funny
there
enough.
we go, yeah.
Look, I love Helena. That's one of my favorite Helena Bonham Carter performances in Fight Club. There are lines that just are permanently seared into my brain through how she delivers them. I also would have killed for a Janine Garofalo version.
Right, and she's talked about it, and she was not like, oh, I got screwed over. She was like, I would 1,000% would not have come anywhere close to doing what Helen Bonham Carter did in that. But then she's like, I live like 2 houses down from Edward Norton, and he always acts like he never notices me. Yeah, that's funny.
Edward Norton's an asshole? I could never believe that.
Oh, man, I saw Birdman. I thought he was just acting. Brian Cox as Doug. Prior to this, The Long Kiss Goodnight in 96, Rushmore in 98. After this, LIE in 2001.
Great movie.
Yeah, I need to watch that. Let me inhale really deep because his 2002 slate is stacked. The Rookie, Born Identity, The Ring, Adaptation, 25th Hour, a movie called The Reckoning, and 2 episodes of Frasier.
Those are some good credits. Damn.
I'm also glad you saved the last of your breath for the 2 episodes of Frasier. Those are very important.
Yeah. He had an arc in 2006 on Deadwood and is currently on Succession. Won an Emmy for a miniseries called Nuremberg in 2001.
Yeah, Alec Baldwin was in that, I think. It's with the Nuremberg trials, and I think Cox plays a Nazi, if I'm not mistaken.
I think so. Movie also features Sheryl Crow in her debut performance, although I think she's only been in like 1 other movie where she's not playing herself. Dwight Yoakam and Dennis Haysbert.
Sheryl Crow was not, it's not a movie, but she was in a few episodes of Cougar Town. Which
okay.
Yeah. I don't remember much about it other than being like, oh, it's Sheryl Crow, and then that's it.
Cougar Town, is that Courtney Cox?
It is Courtney Cox, and it actually is a very funny show that even itself learned to hate its own title because the whole premise was Courtney Cox has sex with younger people, and then it doesn't become that at all. It's like that for like 2 to 3 episodes, and then they're like, we need to do something more with this, and it actually grows into something really funny.
Uh-huh.
Based on what I remember. I haven't finished the show or seen it in like 10 years, but
quick side note, it looks like Sheryl Crow's other 2 acting roles are in D. Lovely, and although I've not seen what her role is in D. Lovely, and 54, the movie about Studio 54.
Yeah, 54. I think she's like, it said like bar patron. So like,
VIP.
I think they probably just like, oh, there's Sheryl Crow, and then that was it. And I think in D. Lovely, there's like a bunch of people that are like musicians, and they didn't have names when I looked at it, so I think they might be playing themselves. But
did she get credit for Crossroads when they'd sing "If It Makes You Happy" throughout like 7 states? Does anyone remember that montage?
No.
Yes, I do.
They literally sing that song through multiple states in a montage. It implies that the only thing they've listened to is that song, which, to be fair, great song.
Yeah, that album's good. That's the only one of hers I've heard, I think, but good album. Is it still?
Bryden has not seen the Shonda Rhimes written classic Crossroads.
It's a blind spot.
Who directed that?
Tamara Davis, who did
Billy
Madison?
Billy Madison director.
Yeah.
And Half Baked. Yes.
Yes. Her follow-up, I believe, to Half Baked, if I'm correct.
We don't talk about her enough. Jesus Christ. Trivia. There's really only one trivia fact that I found out there that was not from the production notes on the DVD, and this is where we will spend most of our podcast talking about. No, but it says on the IMDb trivia, which I do not think is true, it says the original teaser trailer. I do not think this is a teaser trailer. I could not find any trailer that was for theaters that showed clips from the movie that was not this. And on the DVD, it lists this at the original theatrical trailer, and the home video trailer, which is on YouTube, is the same one that's the home video trailer on the DVD. So keep that in mind. The original trailer features Eddie Ifft and Marlon Hinkle as a couple discussing the movie after a date, and did not feature any footage whatsoever from the movie. I will not spoil, but this is one of the maybe the most bizarre trailer I've ever seen. I posted it on our Twitter at Almost Major. Just please go check it out. It is unreal.
It is more. I think its fame has the trailer is pretty famous. It is like surpassed the legacy of the movie itself.
Most of the comments on YouTube are just like, I remember this trailer and I think about it all the time. I sometimes forget that it was for a movie.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of other. Oh, sorry, Brendan. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say the trailer like sets. Without spoiling it, even though I would desperately love to talk about it, it is like it sets like an impossible standard for the movie to live up to, as if like this movie's going to be so exciting, and then like you see the movie, and it's like this is fine, I guess. But
it kind of reminded me of, I don't remember if any of you remember this trailer, but there's a terrible Michael Keaton movie called White Noise.
Yes, that trailer rules.
That trailer scared the shit out of me as a teenager.
Scared me so much, dude.
And it's like it's like about the white noise technology, about like picking up like voices of supposed ghosts who like it was just like, this is Ruth Baxter.
You remember her name too. Oh my god.
Wait, is that really her name?
Yes.
Jesus Christ. Oh my god.
What you are about to hear is real. It has not been edited or enhanced.
I will see you more.
It is the voice of Ruth Baxter.
I will see you more.
This voice was recorded in August 2003. Ruth Baxter died in 1987.
So many things I've forgotten from high school that would be like just fundamental to my
But
survival.
you will remember that she said on the tape, I will see you no more. You remember
I will
that,
see you in the morning. Yeah, because it scared the shit out of me. And it's not the movie at all. It's just genuinely like Ruth Baxter died in 1987, but this was recorded in 1998 or whatever, and they don't show the movie at all, and it got everyone.
No. They do show it. It's like a minute and a half of that, and then it dissolves into a funeral, and then Michael Keaton's there and whatnot. But the movie is not
like jumping off a building or something. Like,
the movie is like, because that trailer scared the living shit out of me, and I remember seeing it before seeing The Grudge in theaters.
Yes,
and
same.
Yeah, it fucking. I recently rewatched it. Still works. It's still creepy as fuck.
And it's
then
like
you watch the movie.
Fucking movies.
Then you watch the movie, and it's like a drama. Like there's like one or two like jump scares where he's like leaning up to a TV and like a ghost CGI's out of the static or whatever. But it's like a drama about a guy grieving over one of his friends who died or something like that. Like
it's horrible.
But it must have done well enough to get a direct-to-video sequel with Nathan Fillion, I believe.
What?
White Noise 2.
Whiter Noise?
No, White Noise 2, The Light, with Nathan Fillion and Katie Sackhoff. Directed by Patrick Lussier, who edited a lot of the Wes Craven movies, Scream, I think, if I'm not mistaken.
Huh.
Even as a teenager, when I got around to that movie, I was like, what the fuck is this shit?
Yeah. Man.
Yeah, I want to make it clear, I wasn't rattling off the director's credits off the top of my head because I didn't know it was that Patrick Lussier who directed it, but I did remember seeing a trailer for White Noise 2 on some DVD. I don't remember which one it was, but
you didn't see that in theaters? Really? Okay.
Bryden, I'm about to forget what actors are in this movie, and I somehow remembered Ruth Baxter, according to Kevin. I don't think you have anything to be ashamed of. The amount of things that I could have retained during 2005 when I saw that trailer, and I decided not to.
And then, oh my god, and then I remember renting Universal movies, and they would have trailers before you got to the DVD menu, and as soon as the tape started going into the machine at the start of the White Noise trailer, I was like, nope, skipping that. I'm not good with that. God, yeah, that trailer is so fucking spooky. Anyways, yeah, go check out the Minus Man trailer on our Twitter and get back to us because it's incredible. I have a few more notes that I copied from the production notes from the DVD. I kind of summed this up. Some of this I could probably not even say. Acclaimed thriller writer Lou McCreary wrote the character of Van in his 1990 novel of the same name. Hampton Franzer first came across the novel after reading a review by writer Anne Rice in the New York Times. Intrigued by her commentary, Fancer cut the review from the paper and carried it around with him for years. He wrote the screenplay based on the character and found respect from the author. McCreary said in the screenplay he improvised off the book jazz style. I think he made a few choices about what to include and what to exclude. Basically, he took something that I would have said was unfilmable and turned it into an enticing meditation on the weird connotations of evil and unreliability of innocence. Talk about trying to fill up a word count. Owen Wilson's name came up early in the casting process, but the director resisted using the rising, albeit relatively unknown star of Bottle Rocket. However, after Wilson read for the part, Fancer was so impressed that he started to believe that if Wilson couldn't be in the picture, he wouldn't make the movie. Sheryl Crow makes her feature film debut here because of Dwight Yoakam's convincing. A self-described movie lover, Crow was a die-hard Blade Runner fan and was curious about acting. So
it is also interesting that they bring up the other trailer I watched brought up Sling Blade, and you have to think about how Dwight Yoakam played such a big part of Sling Blade, and that's probably how she got involved.
Well, yeah. And this is co-distributing this along with Artisan is the Shooting Gallery, which put out Sling Blade, as I was looking up earlier. Yeah.
Also, Lou McCreary lives in Waltham, Massachusetts, which is just about a 10-minute drive from me. So if you have any questions, I can just bring my laptop with me if I can somehow figure out the Wi-Fi path.
It'll be like that. What's that Elisha Wood movie where he gets the laptop and he's in the car?
Oh, open windows? I reviewed that thing. I should know that by now. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's how car chases work with laptops. Yeah. You just stay online the entire time. I don't know why it wouldn't work in this scenario.
Charlie doing a real life open windows. Yeah. But yeah, that's all the trivia I have.
McCreary makes a cameo in the movie as the guy at the diner that Owen Wilson poisons. Yeah, that's
right. That's right. So yeah, both films that we've covered in the past 2 weeks are from novels, and also the authors are in the movies. So yeah, and also both are directorial debuts, and also the only movies they've ever made. Plus, are both Owen Wilson and Janine Garofalo joints. So yeah,
if there have ever been week-to-week episodes where there's been this many strange coincidences in terms of what's the connective tissue here? I mean, I don't know. Choose your own adventure.
The closest is the Center of the World and Startup.com being shot on video, and I wasn't even trying to make that connection whenever we made the double feature, so there was that, I guess. But yeah, I don't. I mean, Blair Witch and Blair Witch 2, there's even though that's a sequel, there's barely a connection. Yeah.
I don't see how those two are related in any way.
Oh, the biggest connection we ever had was Soul Survivors and Bryden's 5-star review for it. That was a pretty big connection. No, that was me. My bad.
I've never done anything violent to anybody. Just the minimum that was necessary.
So what brings you down this way?
My dad was sick and I was taking care of him mostly. After he passed on, I didn't have any reason to stay any longer.
I never make a plan. It just happens.
Are you in a good mood?
Yeah, I'm happy. Everybody's though happy on a Saturday.
In what can only be described as a bizarre incident, police are now treating the case as a homicide.
You don't always choose what you do, Irene. Sometimes what you do chooses you.
Toxology tests have determined the source of the poison.
No fear, no pain. They just go to sleep. I'm not surprised this country has so much violence. I'm surprised it has so little.
Artisan Home Entertainment invites you to see the world through the eyes of a killer.
You recall what you were doing on the 18th?
I remember exactly what I was doing. That was my day off and I spent the day at home.
From the producers of Sling Blade and the writer of Blade Runner.
This is the guy they think poisoned all those people.
Sort of looks like me, doesn't it?
Film critics are calling The Minus Man a potent thriller, chilling and intriguing.
I thought.
You thought what? Is this what you do?
Trance-like, seductive. Owen Wilson, Janine Garofalo, Brian Cox, Mercedes Rule, acclaimed singer-songwriter Dwight Yoakam, Dennis Haysbert. The Minus Man.
You guys have any leads?
Well, we think so. But then, we always think so.
Initial thoughts. Is this everybody's first viewing, I assume?
Yes.
Okay, same here. Bryden, start us off, if you may.
Sure. I thought this was okay. I was into it for like a good portion of it. I think because I was sort of at first I was sort of into the flatness of the movie, how like everything's like he's like just driving through all these sunny beach towns and like countries, sort of like semi countryside places with like lots of mountains and whatnot and on open roads, and the murder scenes aren't like, you know, really done in like in a super flashy way. I think like it's mostly just like static shots of like him like just like, you know, I mean his methods are not like overtly violent. I mean, because like he just like offers people a drink from a flask filled with poison and whatnot, and then he just sort of like watches them, and that's kind of compelling for a little bit, but I think the movie doesn't. I don't know. I don't want to like make it seem like I want this movie to be like a traditional thriller, but I don't know. This is like Hampton Fancher's first movie, and like it kind of shows that like it's not. He's not the most visually adventurous director. It's like the movie kind of just like is standard, like a lot of standard shot reverse shots and dissolve transitions and
those fucking dissolves.
Which
yes.
like for a while, like the casualness of like the transitions is kind of like adds to the maybe the eeriness of it. How like this guy's just like is happy, is like pretty like benevolent when he's talking to people, but then is also like committing these horrible things and just like not really giving it much of a thought. That's like that kind of works for a while, but then the movie doesn't have a whole lot of tricks up its sleeve stylistically or visually in a way that makes it kind of monotonous. And I don't know. I don't know that it's able to sustain its sort of creepy mood for like most of its runtime. It kind of like dissipates as it goes on. Especially because I feel like the Brian Cox thing near the end with like the and his missing wife. I'm not entirely sure if that was necessary to have in the movie. I don't know. It doesn't provide as much tension, I feel like, as it should. And I think Owen Wilson's pretty good in this. It's an interesting use of his sort of like affable persona that like is so that like like you're used to seeing that in like a comedy. Although it's funny, you know, he wasn't like quite as fully formed a comedic star as he was in like a few years later. I mean, like you know, if you go back and watch Bottle Rocket, it's really interesting how he is like kind of a little more aggro in his energy in that movie, as he's like, you know, haranguing people into committing this stupid robbery and everything. So like it's kind of interesting how he's still kind of finding this persona as an actor. Although Permanent Midnight, he already sort of has like the lackadaisical, like, you know, vaguely spacey sort of air to him. So I think that's used pretty well here. Again, I don't know. It's interesting because like the fact that there's maybe not a whole. It doesn't always seem to be a whole lot going on with the performance. I guess it kind of works with the character that he's playing, because there's just. I mean, he says that there's like that has the story like a spider crawled in his ear and then like crawled back out because nobody was home, and it's like it kind of works to sort of that blankness when he's just looking, and you're like, I cannot tell what you're. If it weren't for the voiceover, I would not be able to tell what you're thinking or feeling, and it's effective on that level. But I just don't really know that there's a whole lot there, direct like visually or like thought wise to this movie beyond just like. Kind of like a casual portrait of like an evil person who just chooses to do awful things because he can and like is curious about them. I don't know how much I can only go so far with that in terms of engagement, but like there's some decent stuff in here. I think this movie is totally fine, but it did leave me wanting a little bit more in the end. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah. Charlie?
Yeah, I agree with you, Bryden. I admire what this film is going for. Like, it's a quiet serial killer movie where it's about the little moments, but the cast is doing all of the work, and the direction is just... It's... Like, I can see what they're aiming for, but at the same time, it's not enough. Like, I'm totally fine with understated, eerie, like, undertones, but... And I I love Owen Wilson often as a performer. Here, I think he's giving everything, like, I think he's doing exactly what he's being told to do, but I don't buy him as a serial killer here, and I honestly think that I don't buy him at all. And honestly, I ultimately blame the direction here more than I blame his performance, if that makes any sense, because, like, there are certain actors like, I mean, obviously, Janine Garofalo, Mercedes Ruehl, Brian Cox, like, I think are all really well-tuned here. Even though Janine Garofalo is cast against type, because she's rarely been this vulnerable, I think she's the standout of this cast. Even in 1999, Owen Wilson kind of needed to be pointed in a certain direction in order to make this sort of unsettling in a way that isn't just like the most unsettling thing is I've never seen him with a part down the middle, hair-wise, I guess, but he's still very handsome. And I couldn't help but also think, like, I was rooting for this movie the entire time because I wanted it to be good based on the amount of talent involved, and the fact that it's a feature debut, and the fact that from the screenwriter of, Blade Runner, like, all that. But, it just didn't, kind of like Permanent Midnight, I'm like, I would never stop anyone from seeing this, but yeah, as you said, Bryden, it left me wanting more, and I also couldn't help but think about how The Talented Mr. Ripley came out the same year and did this so much more effectively, and to be fair, much higher budget, better production, more expensive cast, but like, I watched that film a couple years ago when lockdown began, and I didn't care for it in high school, mainly because I was in the closet and not ready for it. And then I saw it like multiple years later and was like, oh yeah, I wasn't ready for this. And that film does so much of the same things here, even though queerness isn't really a factor here. It does some of the same things in terms of a blank character interacting with other people who don't know his true motives, or you don't even know that much about this person, but you're fascinated by him. And I know it's not fair to compare an Anthony Minghella film, who just fucking won, an Oscar for The English Patient, to this, debut, but it's not, I didn't have much to take away from it. As you mentioned, Bryden, it's like, we already know he's a serial killer from the beginning, and we know he's a serial killer at the end, and then by the end you're kind of like, well, I went in knowing this off the bat, and then certain things happen, and other people are affected by it, but they're not fleshed out enough, and then he goes away and the movie's over, and it's kind of like, well, what have we learned here? What's happened? And not much,
Yeah.
And I get that that's the point the movie's trying to make, but there's not enough depth for all the ensemble characters, because it wants to spend so much time with all these other characters, and it just doesn't go anywhere with them or how he impacts their life in any way that haunts me beyond just the superficial aspects of what it's trying to say as a story.
Yeah, and like it's anticlimactic, and I think like that's like, and the fact that like he's not really punished at the end, like that is like sort of like maybe meant to be chilling, I think. And there was something else you were saying too. I think it is valid to bring up like another movie. Even though I haven't seen Talented Mr. Ripley, it's on my watch list. I'll get to it. But
oh boy.
But comparing it, like, I think it's valid to compare it, even though like different budgetary levels and like prestige and everything. It is like, it's like the fact that like these kinds of characters, like sort of charming sociopaths, like are like well-worn territory, and it's like, okay, nice try this like material, but like you can find like a few other variations on like this kind of thing elsewhere. And I think the other thing too is I would be very curious to know what this is like as a book, like if it was all just the interior model, like that like, because the movie, I mean, that's the thing, it's like it's not like a badly written movie and everything, but it's just like there's not enough visually there's not really much justification for this to be a film. Like maybe if it was just like a book where it's just this guy's interior monologue as he's justifying his like horrible actions and everything, that it might be good, but like the movie just doesn't do enough to kick its mood into overdrive. It just kind of stays at like the one level throughout, and it's kind of
every way in which the Owen Wilson character interacts with people and their outcomes are kind of predictable. And not that things need to be like, movies can be predictable as long as they have like an emotional outcome or something that unsettles you in the long run, but all the other characters are kind of archetypes to the point that they are defined by kind of one tick or one thing. To the point that they don't really feel like fleshed, especially in a film that's supposed to be so lived in. I feel like this film is aiming to, kind of create a sense of atmosphere and locale in a way that is small scale, which is totally fine, but by the end, it's like, ultimately, they don't feel real because the characters are just stock figures for how he affects them, as opposed to a lived-in environment that, you wouldn't see every day.
Yeah. My initial thoughts, the first thought I had was, this will be interesting. I've never seen Owen Wilson play serious. And then about 10 minutes into it, I was like, that's why. I do not know if it's because I have so much breadth of him playing a comedic actor that whenever he talks, I think he's gonna be funny. Like the narrations, like I was just like, this is so silly. Also, it's just like, tell me that you adapted a novel, like with all of this voiceover, and he's saying the most drab, boring shit. Like, I've never done anything violent to anybody, just the minimum that was necessary. They just go to sleep, and after that, there's no going back. Yeah.
I'm not surprised by how much violence there is in America. I'm surprised by how little violence there is. Like that shit. Yeah.
Yeah, so that was I was just like, oh boy. And also, one thing about me is I do not like movies where like the main character is a serial killer, where it's like you get to learn out how he ticks, because more times than not that annoys the shit out of me. But I mean, at least here they did something different, where it's not just like, how does he go day to day, how does he kill this person and this person. It's like you actually do get more there, but it's still just kind of milquetoast. I do think the most interesting character here is Janine Garofalo's character. I think Brian Cox and his wife, that whole dynamic is pretty boring. But yeah, Owen Wilson, it's kind of a fault to him, but it's also on the fault of the audience of already seeing him be comedic, that he's not changing enough about himself, that it doesn't get me invested enough, kind of. Or he's kind of being Owen Wilson. He's not really doing a different shtick because it's serious, I feel.
I'd make the argument, though, that, like, maybe it's different because we're reviewing this, like, 23 years later. But at the time, I don't know that Wilson's comedic persona was quite as established as it was later. Like,
right. Yeah. Oh, of course. Yeah.
So, like, hindsight 2020 and everything. But, like, but your point is fair, I think. Like, it's...
No, I agree with absolutely both of you because, I was 14 when Wedding Crashers came out, and I grew up with
Hell
Zoolander and stuff like
Hell
that.
yeah.
And I think back, and it's like, yeah, he was still in The Fucking Haunting. Like, he was getting beheaded in The Haunting the same year as this. And at the same time, that's kind of why I fault it more on the direction more than I fault it on... Because I think the other actors can hold their weight, and Brian Cox and Mercedes Rule, and they're more established character actors who can just kind of lift their own. I think Janine Garofalo is most impressive because she's kind of given a stock character who is very familiar, but manages to have a personality in and of herself that...
Yeah.
But that's why I feel bad saying I don't find Owen Wilson intimidating, because it is very hard to make Owen Wilson intimidating as a serial killer, but also, like, I don't think he was pointed in a way that was meant to be... yeah, it's complicated, yeah. Because he wasn't known as a persona back then, but now we watch it there, and we're like, well, this isn't the Owen Wilson we know, and he's not stretching that much, but he was stretching back then? It's confusing. Like,
it's the thing of also, it's just like, oh, I'm watching it and I'm just like, okay, he's not like he's not like, oh, he's so likable, how could anybody have known? Like, everybody thinks he's creepy and weird. Like, when he goes to rent the room, she's just like, no, something, you showed up like 8 hours early, like, I guess come see it. Maybe if my husband signs off on it. And he was like, so if I talk to your husband, I can get it, right? And she's like, yeah, I guess. Like, she was using that as an excuse, and then he talks in there, and then it's just, Brian Cox is the one like, oh, maybe we should have him down for dinner. She's like, absolutely not. He's a tenant, not a guest. Like,
I mean, I guess it's because, like, they don't want to get attached to anyone because their daughter is out of touch with them, I guess. But, yeah. I mean, Mercedes Rule, like, she's right to have the red flags raised, definitely at the start.
At the same time, though, like he's just, like Brian Cox comes into Owen Wilson's room the first night he's there after Mercedes' Rule is like, do not invite them to dinner. And then he sneaks up to the bedroom. Go to a football game? And I'm like, does Mercedes Rule just have... like grocery shopping to do on Friday night or something? Like,
well,
like
no,
she
that's why they're whispering, because she's there.
But like, she has to be like, where are both of these people? Like she would definitely hear Owen Wilson in the floor above him, and I don't mean to be like the plot like person, but like there is a certain weird disconnect between the performances and the direction and the screenplay in a way that doesn't feel genuine.
Mm-hmm.
Even for a film like this. I guess that's the thing, is like, it's meant to have such a lived-in personal vibe, and like, it just felt kind of like, no. And again, to your point, Brad, and maybe it's just because I'm like, it's 2022, and it's like, I miss these character actors, and now like, but they don't all feel like they're occupying the same movie at the same time.
No.
Like,
yeah. But yeah, like, it's not like he's so charming that people are just like, it's not like a Ted Bundy thing. He's already milquetoast, and people already are uneasy because he's like, pulls up to the high school kid and he's just like, hey, you want to ride? Come on, get on. It's not even just like, he's like, you're not saying anything to make this guy be like, oh, he's trustworthy or anything, but he immediately gets in, he's like, is that booze in there? You know?
Yeah.
But yeah, I wasn't that big of a fan, but if Janine Garofalo was not doing what she did with this character, it would be even lower.
She is far and away the best thing of this movie, especially considering that her character, as it is written, is not interesting at all. But she manages to provide so much of her idiosyncratic, like, energy into this role that, like, you put any other actress in there, it wouldn't be the same.
Yeah, just the way that she replies, like, she's always asking questions, like, way too quickly and everything. Like, when he says, like, oh, man, when I was in college. And she's like, you went to college? Like, she, like, says that, like, like, it's so relatable, where she's just, like, she's not quite used to these interactions and everything. And, like, but it's, like, so excited to be talking to this person who seems interested in her. Yeah.
Which is so different from her persona, because you think of her persona and she's just so deadpan and funny and blunt. In the best type of, like, I'm gonna own you type of way. Yeah. That is just like sharp as a knife. Like
like Romy and Michelle, she's so funny in that.
Oh my god, she steals that movie, and that movie has Mira Sorvino and fucking Lisa Kudrow in it. Like it's just
there's the scene that highlights that the most is whenever they're writing a get well card to God, what's his name?
Joe?
Yeah, but who's the actor?
Oh, good question. I'll look it up.
Hold on, it is... God damn it. Oh, Larry Miller. No, wait. Is it?
No, Larry Miller's the dad of Gene, the football kid who goes missing.
Right. Okay, for Joe, but writing the card, and she because they had previously hung out and they went on the beach and they had that really awkward hug, and then she's like, oh, sign this card and whatnot, and he's just like, oh, what'd you sign? And she says it, and she's like so just like distraught and not really that happy, and then he's just like, oh, okay, and then he walks away and she's like, what? And he's just like, I don't know why you didn't call me. He was like, you never gave me your number. She's like, I never gave you your number? Oh, okay, good.
Yeah.
Okay, here, give me your number. Okay, and then she goes into the next room. She's like, who hasn't signed the card? Anybody?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's so sad because like you're just worried for something. It's like, oh, this person deserves something good. I hope she doesn't end up like one of his victims. Yeah.
Right, and luckily nothing happens other than.
Well,
there's like, oh, let's roughhouse, and then he's just like, oh, I'm gonna attempt to murder you. And she's like, whoa.
That is genuinely the one moment that got like a huge reaction out of me, because most of the movie I was kind of sleepy, and then that one moment happened, and even though it was foreshadowed that would happen, the fact that she plays it so effectively, it was just
it just changes so quickly, like like you're like 10 seconds earlier they're like throwing bread at each other like goofily, and then like it's
it's a testament to her power as an actress and a non-comedic actress.
Yes. Yeah.
I love how she gets upset, goes outside, grabs her dog, and then leaves.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of that.
And Owen Wilson's like saying like even the dog was mad at me and everything. And it's like
and it wasn't Owen Wilson that made me scared, it was her reaction to Owen Wilson that made me scared.
Yeah, you could feel that. He was like, I thought and she was like, do you typically do that? Were you really gonna do that? He's like, I don't know. Yeah.
One thing that I just remembered now, and I feel like I just want to bring this up. I'm sorry if it's a detour, but it'll make it really quick.
You're fine.
Is on the special features of the DVD You, Me, and Dupree, there's a trailer that recuts it that makes
Kevin
it look like a
choked
horror.
on his water for all of those of you listening. Oh Jesus!
But there's like a trailer that
Sorry,
makes the
Brian.
movie look like a horror film where like Owen Wilson and Kate Hudson are like a happily married couple, and Matt Dillon's like a psycho who's coming after them, and there's like a shot of like Owen Wilson like choking out like Matt Dillon and everything, and he has like red eyes and everything, and it's like it's actually funnier than the movie itself, but like it's like a good little bit of esoterica if anyone wants to look that up online. And just because you were talking about, like, I can picture Owen Wilson as a serial killer, and he's not a killer in that place, but it's like a similar like sort of creepy thriller context that they reframe that as.
Oh, I found You, Me, and Dupree recut thriller trailer. I don't know if that's somebody who did that online or whatnot. There's a spoof trailer. I think it's this one. Okay. Yeah, I'll definitely have to look that up either. You could have given me, I don't know, like 30 different options. Like, what Owen Wilson movie is Bryden going to choose? And You, Me, and Dupree would be the 35th. Yeah. God, that literally almost killed me. Anyways, let's get to the plot of The Minus Man. Van Seaguard, played by Owen Wilson, is a wandering serial killer who poisons his victims. He explains that he feels he is helping them and that they die without pain. After killing a heroin addict named Casper, played by Sheryl Crow, he met at a bar. He makes her death look like an overdose and moves to a new town.
Can we stop for a second? Because
yes,
Sheryl Crow, I really liked in this scene.
Yeah, she's really good.
She's really good. What does he ask? He's like, you got...
He asks John Carroll Lynch, who's the bartender.
But he asks for certain things. And then
pie.
She goes, you got pie? And she goes, they got pickles. And the camera just kind of pans over to a jar of pickles. And I was like, what an opening line. Like because Sheryl Crow literally has the "and Sheryl Crow." By the way, the title sequence for this movie is like the slowest title sequence.
By the fifth text screen, it's just like it still hasn't set the title or Owen Wilson, like, still going.
Washing his car.
And Sheryl Crow, and then like they go into the bar, and then Sheryl Crow's just like, you could pickle a bunch of things. Like, it's kind of like that Portlandia sketch.
And then she bites her lip for like 10 seconds. I was just like, I don't know if she's trying to be subtle or not. I don't know.
But she's not, because she says, I would like to be pickled, or something along those lines.
Yeah, and John Carroll Lynch, I just think his performance in this is funny because like he's just abrasive, like off the top. I'm thinking, no wonder this guy has no customers. He's a dick to everyone. He's like, get the fuck out.
Sheryl Crow literally says,
"You're not gonna fucking
go over
pay
there for a second."
Know it.
Yeah.
Oh my god! I was like, the Zodiac Killer is fucking going nuts right now.
There was a part of me though that was like, okay, Sheryl Crow's gonna be killed off in the first scene. That's a shame, because I'd like to spend more time with her and less time with Owen Wilson.
Imagine if this movie was recut with Sheryl Crow as the killer. That'd be wild.
Oh my god!
But then you rename it. All I want to do is have some fun. There it is. Okay.
Or if it makes you happy. Yeah.
Yeah, if it makes you dead. The next day, he arrives at the home of Doug and Jan Darwin, played by Brian Cox and Mercedes Rowe, and rents out the room of their missing daughter. I don't think she's missing. She goes to college.
They say Cox says later, like, that's like an excuse they use. He says, like, as she's not gone to college as far as I know. We just don't know where she is. Yeah. So maybe there's like, it's like definitely in a strange relationship, or maybe she's dead. It's unclear.
We're introduced to her. Yeah, no, like Wikipedia kind of spoils that reveal in their synopsis.
And so did I. Sorry to our listeners.
Oh my god!
Oh no!
Everyone was on the edge of their seats.
They were like, well, listen to half of the plot synopsis, but then after that, I'm pausing it, and then I'm watching the movie. Yeah. Doug recommends that he look for work at the post office as they are hiring seasonal help for Christmas. Doug takes Van to a high school. Oh, what I was going to say is that I'm just imagining Sheryl Crow on the set just being like, they have pickles. They have pickles. They have pickles. Trying to rehearse that line. Doug takes Van to a high school football game where he meets Gene, played by Eric Mabius, who I remember as... God damn it. He's in Resident Evil. He's Alice's husband. That's right.
Oh, yeah.
A star athlete and his family. A few days later, Van offers the boy a ride and murders him and buries his body on a beach. While he is digging the grave, Van has an imaginary conversation with two detectives, Blair and Graves, played by Dwight Yoakam and Dennis Haysbert. Wild to see him not being the all-star guy. That's pretty wild. All-state, my bad. Who asked taunting questions about his methods. Later, Van helps the town search for the missing athlete and even attends his memorial service. He reveals that killing Gene broke two of his personal rules. Don't kill anybody you know, and don't kill anybody from your town. Weird rules.
Which, can I also say the same similarities between both of these movies were just that voiceovers just say certain things without ever showing them?
Yeah.
With this and Permanent Midnight, the other movie that we were covering. In case it wasn't obvious that we recorded both of these at the same time, everyone. Sorry.
Oh, man. You're showing him how the sausage is made. Brian, what were you saying?
Yeah, I mean, I just wanted to talk a little bit about some of the scenes that like how they're done. I do think Wilson is pretty good in that first murder scene where, like, again, it is like kind of like he's not necessarily killing out of malice. Although it is interesting how he kills a lot of people he seems to maybe disapprove of. Like, he kills like a heroin addict, and he kills like someone who's like rude at a restaurant, and then he like kills someone. He kills Gene when he takes like a drink from like the flask and everything, and it's I don't know. It's like kind of an interesting moralistic thing, and also like how he's like when he's like dropping Sheryl Crow off, he like is like he says like, oh, maybe a bear toppled over this trash can. He's like putting it away and like being very organized. But I do like sort of like how he like tilts his head and everything as if like just like, oh, so that's what happens when someone drinks poison or whatever. Like that again, the movie can't sustain the level of tension based on just like that limited range of expressions that Owen Wilson has and everything, but it is interesting and creepy to see it and to see those kind of expressions that you see like in a comedic context like employed in here. But I also think it's he's really good in the scene where like he goes out with Gene and like you see him laughing and smiling as like Brian Cox starts to tell a story, and then the smile falls almost as if like he realizes like, oh, that's I'm not supposed to smile for that long and everything. I'm supposed to be like listening earnestly and everything. That's like kind of interesting where he knows like kind of the gist of how to like talk to people. And that's like the stuff that's like kind of funny in the movie where like he like Mercedes Rowe later on in the movie like tells him about like, oh yeah, like there's like someone like was struck with concrete and everything from like a fallen building. He's like, must have missed that one and everything. Like the sort of like folksy jokiness that he uses, and like he doesn't get the response. How people react to him is sort of what changes like the tone of the scene and everything. And it's like kind of interesting like that stuff. I don't love Dennis Haysbert and Dwight Yoakam in this. I feel like
which is a shame because they're both so good as actors.
I've loved them in like other things, and they're fine here. But it does. I mean, he's imagining them, I guess, like as like sort of stock cop type characters and everything, like good cop, bad cop, and like because I guess that's just how he imagines it. And I guess it's there because it's like meant to maybe add like some. He knows the things he's doing are wrong, but he just wants to see what happens and everything. Like it's and that's like interesting on that level, but like it doesn't. It's all. I guess it's also there to add some tension of like maybe the walls are closing in, but it doesn't do it successfully.
It kind of sucked the air out of everything for me too, because this film is it feels so grounded in reality, or the tone it feels like it's trying to strike is just realism or minimalism or whatever. So to have those scenes just kind of come in and like out of nowhere, it just kind of just breaks the narrative in a weird way. It's not even like, you know, like you think about something like American Psycho, where Willem Dafoe's character is like such a narcissist, and is believing he's onto something, but like he strikes the same tone with the characters who are stuck in their own mind space. Like that's totally in tune with everything going on. And every time, I agree with you, Bryden, every time Dennis Haysbert and Dwight Yoakam came on, actors I love, but I was just like, okay, like, we get it. Like come on. Like, you know, like...
The worst offense is the fucking... where Owen Wilson is just like, I have 7 expressions. I can show you 2 of them.
Oh and my God.
And the second one, he does that screaming face, and I was just like, this is funny. But in the trailer, they take that shot of him like pretending to scream, and they like do a bunch of flashes to make it seem like he's like this wild serial killer. It's really funny.
Yeah.
I was surprised he didn't do Blue Steel, but I guess that's not his move.
I don't know, but it just feels like I'm watching a bad cop show when you cut to those like fantasy sequences. I'm just like, I was watching like a run-of-the-mill interrogation scene, except I know it's just in this guy's mind, but it's like, this is not interesting to watch. Yeah.
But the rest of the film feels like just like a drama in a town that it's trying to provide like just this kind of homey feel to. That like you know, this is a part of America almost that you wouldn't see before, and that like evil lurks beneath the surface, and to just have that shit in there, it's like out of a bad Law and Order episode or something. I agree. Yeah.
Van's ties to the community grow as he is given more responsibility at the post office. One of Van's co-workers, Farron, played by Janeane Garofalo, sheepishly pursues him. Doug drives her to the beach. Wikipedia.
That happens. That takes a while. Wikipedia.
No, it's not Doug. It's Van. It says Doug here. Van drives her to the beach where the pair exchange an awkward hug directly over the spot where Van buried Jean. On Christmas Day, Van goes to a diner and chooses another victim, Meg Foster. She invites him to her house where he sees that she's a painter. Something about her work disturbs him and he flees.
Wait. I'm sorry. Something about her work disturbs him. She has a painting of someone aiming a gun at his head.
It's like, this is too much.
What do you mean something about her work disturbs him?
I know.
I guess it's also because he's worried that she'll be able to draw his face really well.
That's hysterical. Yeah. Something about her work disturbs him. Yeah, someone's like about to blow his brains out and she painted it. Like, that's what the
I had to rewind that scene. I wasn't paying all the way of attention, but I was just like, I looked down for a second, I look up, and I was like, wait, who houses where are these paintings? What's going on? And then I went back, and he has like one line with her in a diner, and then it immediately goes to her house.
I will admit I did have to pause it because I was like, wait, is that Meg Foster? And then it took me like scrolling like a ridiculous amount of time on IMDb's profile to be like, yep, that's Meg Foster. Those piercing blue eyes. Like,
yeah, I at first I was just like, is that? She have like contacts in? I was like, that's not real. But yeah, it's her. Van returns to the diner and slips poison into the water of a man played by Lou McCreary, eating alone. An autopsy reveals that the death was a result of a rare poison derived from tree bark fungus found in the Pacific Northwest. So specific for no fucking reason. The poison is then linked to Casper's death and then to Gene's when his body is found. By a random dog. Bury him deeper, I would say. Van knows the police will eventually tie the murders to him.
I do like that scene where like it is like the dog, like you see the dog from afar burying it, and then like it's like the hand barely reaches the surface, and then like the camera like whip pans to like the next scene. I think that's like pretty creepy how it's like just barely keeping the violence like to like a bit like just like sort of like the like not really like kind of like keeping it just barely on screen and everything, like leaving it to the imagination rather than like, you know, peppering you with gory bodies. I don't know. I think that's like reasonably effective. Again, not sure that there's enough there to make the movie entirely kick it to high gear, but it's decent.
It's something, yeah. While looking into the mirror, he pulls hair off of his jacket and puts them in an envelope on which he writes Farron. Jan is found dead from a blow to the back of the head. The police suspect Doug, but Van is worried that the increased scrutiny from another murder will lead the police to him. During a date with Farron, he tries to initiate sex by assaulting her. She is terrified, and Van leaves. The next day, the police arrest Doug for Jane's murder. Van packs his things. Before he leaves town, he puts his postal uniform and the envelope marked Farron containing the sample of his hair in a mailbox. The film ends as he drives on a highway saying he wants to lead a more regular life once he gets to wherever he was going. He is pursued by a cop who had earlier approached him on the beach where he fell asleep in his car. After taking a good look with her spotlight, there we go. Some words were not in there. She smiles at him and takes the right fork in the road while Van takes the left. I didn't know that the Furious 7 ripped this ending off, but that's funny.
I'm just imagining that now.
I gotta recut the ending of Minus Man with See You Again by Wiz Khalifa.
Gosh,
I gotta do that.
I heard that song so many times in gym class. It's not a good
Christ.
song.
No, it's not. But
God damn it, Kevin.
yeah, just the and also the visual motif where it's just like he's going one way and she's going the opposite way.
That's at the start of the movie when he's like looking left and right, and it's like
I
mean, again, kind of functionally directed where it's like he looks, you know, it shows him like looking at the start of the movie, he's like looking right, and then it cuts to his right side view, then he looks to the left, cuts to the left side view. It's like, yep. Don't know if we need all these shots. Yeah.
I felt just this same amount of pathos just watching Vin Diesel and Paul Walker just separate ways. God damn it. God damn it, Kevin.
It's wild if you watch the end of Minus Man. Actually, Owen Wilson's face is CGI'd onto somebody else's body.
Oh, God. Jesus Christ. Someone's gonna come after us for this.
Oh, it's fine. I will tell them to watch Running Scared. Just for a good rec.
Wild.
It's fucking
Never
nuts.
saw it. I've been told
I haven't seen it since it came out. I've been needing to rewatch it, but I remember as a kid being like, this is the most fucking wild ass movie I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Anyways, yeah. So the ending is such a nothing thing because what it leaves out is that Doug Brian Cox allegedly said he was gonna take Van's truck and then he didn't,
because he's always worried about his wife leaving him because he has awful mood swings where he just starts attacking himself and like it's really upsetting to his wife. And I think he says something about how Jane Mercedes Rowe was going to look at a house, so he asked if he could borrow his truck to follow her. And then the movie kind of like skips ahead, and then the cops come to the house to say, yeah, she's been found with her head bashed in. I don't think we're supposed to think Cox did it. Are we supposed to think it's just
no?
Like kind of a random thing?
The thing that I took away from it was that because he bashed Janine Garofalo's head in, but in a failed attempt, it's meant to be clear that he was the one who murdered her and then was trying to, like it was sloppy on his end. Is that what we're supposed to take away from that?
Well, but it's weird because like Van, like, I don't want to sound like the couple in like the trailer for Minus Man or whatever.
I was about to say, we have so much to talk about for hours. Somewhere right now, 2 elderly people are dead in a swimming pool. Yeah.
But it's like...
No, that's Swim Fan, Kevin. That's your favorite movie. Shame on you.
Yeah, right now, Jesse Bradford is swimming somewhere, and then Jason Ritter's bloody head is going to bunk him in the head while he's swimming. Yeah.
But is it, like, I feel like after Mercedes Ruehl turns up dead, you hear, like, Van narrating is like, I never thought Doug would do this, but like if he did, like, he sure picked a bad time to do it or whatever. Like,
yeah.
So it's like he's suspicious of it, but I don't know. And then like, but whether or not he like thinks Cox did it, he will like let him take the rap for it because he's just like, as much as he seems to care about him, it's just like he's out for himself at the end, of course. So it's just like,
right, and people in the town like know that couple as like you're living with them. How is that type of thing? So it's like he can use that to his advantage of people thinking that they're a estranged couple type thing.
Yeah, that exactly. That's the main flaw. Is like either Owen Wilson murdered Mercedes Ruehl and did the same thing to tried to do the same thing to Janine Garofalo and failed, or Brian Cox murdered her and then he tried to frame Brian Cox for her attempted murder that also failed, and the failure of it all in the end is we don't care. like it doesn't matter. At least from my perspective, is the ambiguity is just kind of like, oh well, none of these people are fully fleshed out enough for us to even give a shit. Like, these people are such archetypes that they're boring. Like,
right. It's kind of the thing where it's just like Artisan saw that ending, but instead of being like, we're going to fix it, we're going to make the marketing where it's just like, you have to talk about it for so long because it's so ambiguous. You're going to have so many questions. And it's just like, nah, not really.
Yeah, and I never really felt like worried not worried, but I never felt like there was any possibility that like Wilson's character was in any danger, that the walls were closing in on him. I think it's partly like the way the movie's structured, and also like the way that Fancher doesn't really do anything to heighten the tension at all, to really bring any suspense to the fact, other than like, I guess like the one scene when like Cox is like arrested, the cops come in and they first like come to Wilson and say like, Van, step, and then they say, step aside, we're actually arresting this guy. And it's like, okay.
Right, because the police also like when Van is on like his route or whatever, they get him in the cop car and they are interrogating him, but about Doug. But I guess maybe he internalizes that as they're on his trail or something. But maybe his hallucinations of the police officers also make him feel like things are closing in, but it really seems like he's fine.
It's kind of like a clean version of Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer in a certain way. I mean, like, this movie has nothing in common with the aesthetics of that movie, but it is kind of trying to do the same thing of like, what if there was no blood, no murder, no nothing? You just saw a portrait of someone who just didn't give a shit. And I think Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer is brilliant. I'm not asking for this film to do any of those same things, but it is kind of frustrating how like, you know, it's aiming to do some of those same things, but then also kind of create like this semi-domestic drama and also create a sense of community in these parts of America that we don't see very often in suburbia. And then there are kind of archetypes too. I don't know, like it's weird.
And it's similar to Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer in the sense that like there are like these relationships where he gets into where it's like it seems like it's on the verge of sentimentalizing them, where it's like, oh well, maybe there's a possibility that there is something in there, and then the movies end and you're like, nope, nothing there. Like that guy is pure evil.
Nothing there. Yeah. And even Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer, which is a horrifically graphically violent movie, ends with a note of ambiguity that is haunting, that is not graphic. It's the one moment that isn't. I'm not going to spoil that movie, but like just leaves you haunted by it.
Jeez,
it's grim as fuck.
I need to rewatch it. I haven't seen it since like 6th grade.
Oh, I've only seen it once. I love that movie, but it's hard to want to revisit that.
I have problems with it, but it does get under your skin.
Charlie, you didn't pick it up on 4K? You didn't do that?
I didn't do it.
Oh, damn.
I watched it like 6 years ago, and I was like, I love that, and
You're never being like, oh, we're going to have a party at my crib. I'm going to play the home invasion scene from Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer on the background. Everybody's going to have a good time.
Yeah, exactly. But I guess that is the problem, is that they develop all these characters as people with interior lives, and then the movie doesn't ultimately follow through with any of that. It is ultimately the last 15 minutes of that movie that fail. Like, because it is build up, intrigue. Then Mercedes ruled,
Yeah, the whole movie, that's the thing. The movie, like, is intriguing. I feel like I maybe was phrasing it badly, but the whole movie feels like it's set up. And it's just kind of that one note where it never feels like it kicks into high gear. And like in the
climax. Right, and the conclusion maybe doesn't even involve him. Like, really?
Yeah, but because it kind of wants to have it both ways, as both of you have said, of like, bad time for him to do that, but then it also is from his perspective of Mercedes Rule, as you brought up earlier, either in the last episode or this episode, Bryden, where it's just Mercedes Rule backing up in her car and being like, "Okay, bye," and then just fading out, and it's kind of like
so weird.
Like
so many fade outs. So maybe I am misremembering, and the Wikipedia is not giving me much answers to remember. Why does he send his hair in the envelope for Farron? Why does he do that?
Well, it sounds like you're like the couple. And
God damn it!
but also, I mean, he has like a whole like thing talking about like when Gene goes missing. He says like, think about it. If it weren't for me giving him a ride, no one would be here. They'd be doing something else on their Saturdays. It's almost like he's impressed with like sort of like the effect that he has on people by being able to do these awful things to people. And I guess maybe him sending the hair is like, maybe passing down his legacy, or like, a proof of his existence, and like leaving sort of like an impact on these people's lives, I guess. Even if he's like, it's a horrible effect that he's leaving on them, like a traumatic effect. That's like my read that I sort of have of it, but maybe I'm wrong.
Simultaneously trying to be cold, which I have no problem with, but the coldness doesn't... It's trying to be cold, which I don't have a problem with, but the coldness doesn't really mean anything because they're not fleshed out people. Like,
no. Because my first thought, I was just like, is he sending that so that they have like... Did they find hair at one of the crime scenes for one of the poisonings? But I was like, they never brought that up, so I don't know if it's just like, you can try to find me with this, but they're only going to get so far type thing.
Yeah,
I don't know.
And then all of the character development are like people doing histrionics, like Brian Cox just being like, I'm gonna watch TV! like that's supposed to be this defining moment of like, oh, who is this person really? And it's just like, I don't know. He slaps himself and he wants to watch TV and he screams it very loudly. That's not really saying anything.
Well, and he likes football.
And he likes football.
And turkey dinners.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, I would say, like, maybe, like, the movie is, like, trying to go, like, I don't have a problem with the movie having, like, a sort of, like, flat, detached aesthetic if, like, it was working towards something, but I do think, I mean, the most adventurous scene stylistically is when, like, Van is playing football with himself and the camera's, like, just swooping all over the place, and, like, it's, like, the sky is, like, just pure white in the background, and then everything else in the movie is just, like, kind of flat shot, reverse shot, or, like, simple plans.
Yeah.
And, like, it's, like, and I don't know, I feel like this movie really needed someone who had like a little bit more range stylistically as a director, and I feel like Fancher maybe just wasn't there yet, or maybe doesn't have the goods as a director to do that.
The actors did all the heavy lifting, and it shows. And I mean that in terms of, as I said before, the Owen Wilson performance, not bad, just needed more, like, it's just not, he's not intimidating as a time capsule or back then.
Right, yeah. But even that scene where he's tossing the football, it just feels so like you're trying to be artsy type of thing. Because also it's that plus him narrating, saying some stupid shit. I don't know what he was saying. Something about like, the thing about jobs is they, I don't know. Any final thoughts on the plus and minus man? The division man.
I don't understand numbers.
The Minus Man actually inspired the titles for all of Ed Sheeran's albums. Thank you. There it is. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Almost Major. Please rate, review, and subscribe to us on iTunes. Please follow the pod on Twitter at Almost Major to keep up to date with what movies we will be covering in the future. Myself, I can be found on Twitter and Letterboxd at Kev Bonesy. Bryden can be found on Twitter at Bryden Doyle and on Letterboxd at J Doyle. Charlie can be found on Twitter and Letterboxd at CT Nash91. Once again, thank you for listening.